Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister pays homage to veteran journalists who have left an indelible mark on the journalism front here at home. A firm stand against bullying at all levels in Trinidad and Tobago. And Tobago contractors familiarize themselves with the necessary steps to access government contracts. Thank you for joining us. November 19th marks International Journalists' Remembrance Day, and in commemoration of the men and women who served Trinidad and Tobago in the field, Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Prasad Bisasa paid homage to veteran journalists who have now passed on but have left an indelible mark on the journalism front here at home.
International Journalists' Remembrance Day is being observed today in the memories of those journalists who laid down their lives while performing their duties. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisasa took the opportunity to honor a few of this country's distinguished journalists who have made significant contributions to the field. In her message, the Prime Minister paid tribute to veteran journalists Keith Smith, Anthony Milne, as well as Louis B. Homer, who recently passed away. She described each as having been dedicated to preserving and uplifting local culture and history while simultaneously cultivating a healthy media environment for a burgeoning democracy. She spoke of Keith Smith's work as being remarkable throughout his over 4 decades of service. Smith passed away in February of 2011 and was known for his column in the Trinidad Express newspaper, the Keith Smith column, which she says became a household name in TNT. Special mention was also made of radio personality Clive Jimmy Maynard, who died last year, and Trinidad Guardian photographer Kenny Rudd, who died last week. Maynard, a veteran newsman, served in the local and regional media for 50 years before he was laid to rest last year. The Prime Minister recalled his many successes through the popular current affairs program, The Newsmakers, which ran for numerous years on Radio Guardian, currently known as Inspirational Radio 730. Maynard was not only the news producer at Radio Guardian, he also worked as director at Radio Antilles in Montserrat. Maynard was also a culture enthusiast who was particularly excited about calypso and steel pan. She also recalled the dedicated service of Anthony Milne, who was described as one of the best wordsmiths in the local newspaper by his colleagues. The Prime Minister fondly remembered his sense of humour and deep appreciation for literature and local arts, which she says was evident in his short stories. She also recalled Louis B. Homer as a cultural colossus and leaving an indelible mark in the journalism world. This year he was recommended for the Hummingbird Medal Gold. However, he passed away days before he could be honoured at the Independence Day National Awards function in August. The Prime Minister said Homer wore many important hats as he was a journalist, historian, a cultural activist and advocate. He played a major role in the struggle to preserve, restore and retain the Naparima Bowl as a heritage site and a home for the arts in southern Trinidad. In giving thanks for their contribution, she noted these men as distinguished public figures who surpassed the basic journalistic mandate of information dissemination and are more than deserving of heartfelt recognition from both the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago. She meanwhile urged future budding journalists to follow in the footsteps of these media giants in upholding democracy. International Journalists' Remembrance Day is commemorated November 19th annually. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
In other news, each year millions of students around the world are bullied at school. However, bullying does not stop there, but in fact exists at the workplace and even in communities. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, groups are taking a firm stand against bullying at all levels.
There have been countless anti-bullying campaigns all over the world, which all seek to bring awareness to this social ill. While you may easily dismiss the thought that you've been bullied at least once in your life, it is important to note that bullying comes in many forms and fashions.
Childhood years and teenage years should be a time to be happy and carefree. Problems such as bullying can transform this stage of life into an insidious nightmare. Bullying has become an epidemic in our society, and we all have a responsibility to stop the intimidation.
On Saturday, the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent-Teacher Association Incorporated, better known as the National Parent-Teacher Association or NPTA, held its anti-bullying walk around the Queen's Park Savannah. The event attracted teachers, parents and students alike to collectively take a stance against bullying. President of the NPTA, Zina Ramatali, explained why it is important to take strict action against bullying in Trinidad and Tobago and across the wider world.
It is important because bullying has become, I should say, a very serious problem. I think in the past, bullying actually took place, but it was swept under the carpet, so nobody actually, spoke out. Children often complained, and nothing was done about it because teachers didn't have the skills. They didn't take the time really to handle some of the complaints that children, went to them about. So we recognize children have committed suicide. There were murders in our schools, and it's all because of bullying. And we have to look at bullying in all its forms.
Some of these include physical bullying, verbal bullying, indirect bullying, social alienation, intimidation, and cyberbullying. Minister of State in the Ministry of National Security, Senator the Honorable Imba Mohini, believes that bullying is as a result of a breakdown in the morals and values of society.
The bullies could not exist if we did not create a culture of wrong. They could not exist in a vacuum. And therefore, we have to challenge ourselves as individuals to take a stand for right against wrong.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service was also a part of the walk, having launched an anti-bullying campaign in October.
Now it hurts our hearts when we have to go into schools to arrest young persons. We don't want to do that. We are trying to avoid that, but that is it reached the stage where we have no other alternative. As you can see, the last occasion at Conopia High, we had no choice because it reached the stage of violence. But we want to avoid that, and how we can avoid that is by going into the schools and educating the young ones.
Executive President of Vision on Mission, Wayne Chance, explained why it was important to partner with the NPTA on this initiative.
We see bullying as a means of, if not brought under control, not handled properly, eventually lead to a serious life of crime and imprisonment. So our support and participation here is to also stand against bullying.
We spoke to some young students who joined the walk and asked them their thoughts on bullying.
I don't like bullying because I don't want to get bullied, and I don't want my brothers to get bullied also.
Nobody would not like to be bullied because it's not a very good thing. And if you get bullied, you will hurt your feelings. That bullying bad, and if somebody bully you, you can go out to your teacher or your principal or your mommy or your daddy.
Thanks. So, the next time that you're asked whether you've been a victim of bullying or know someone who has been, don't be so quick to say no, because you never know who may be suffering in silence. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. The 2013 graduating class of the Trinidad and Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute is poised for greatness. The graduates are expected to bring the necessary skills and competencies to the local tourism sector so that it can be in line with international standards.
Tourism and hospitality play a major role in understanding us as a people and what we have to offer. Thank you. With the tourism sector constantly evolving internationally, Trinidad and Tobago can rest assured that the local sector is in good hands, especially if a graduate of the Trinidad and Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute is at the helm. On Tuesday, more than 200 students of the TTEC graduated and embarked on a new chapter in their lives. The Port of Spain ballroom of the Hyatt Regency Trinidad was filled with proud parents, lecturers and well-wishers who all recognized the significance of such a day. The students were given words of wisdom and advice that would take them through their career.
That the industry is like leaps and bounds. The average traveler now is not a person who would travel once every 5 years, they go somewhere. That was moons ago. Now your average traveler is traveling 10 times a year to the same destination. So you have to keep up. They are expecting a degree of excellence whenever they arrive at the hotel. It must not be less than they experienced on a previous visit. Otherwise, there will be confrontation at the counter. They're expecting their meals to have variety. So you cannot have the same menu for a whole year because your guests are coming with frequency and they expect something new, something exciting. So your work is cut out for you. You have to be diverse, you have to be diligent, you have to be disciplined, you have to cater to the need of the new traveler, the new visitor at the hotel.
The graduating class walked away with diplomas in baking and pastry arts, culinary arts, events and conference management, food and beverage supervision, and front office and travel agency operations. Graduates were also awarded associate degrees in culinary management, food and beverage management, hospitality management, and tourism management, while others received a Bachelor of Business Administration in hospitality and tourism, as well as a Bachelor of Science in culinary management. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Ms. Angela Sanaswi-Gervais, told the graduates that to progress after this chapter, they had to understand the importance of dreaming big and professionalism. News 4 asked the graduates how they felt about this journey of theirs coming to an end after the devotion they gave to completing their course of study.
Well, I feel like I'm now starting over because I finished my externship and I got a new job there. So I want to see how far it will take me in terms of beginning my own career and opening my own business.
I'm relieved. I'm glad that all the hard work paid off. I look forward to pursuing more in the future. Not too sure what yet, but I do look forward to that. And everything right now is laid out in front of me, so it's just to pick and choose what to do.
Well, it has been a great journey throughout the 2 years, and it feels free now, but it's still a lot more work. I'll be back to do my bachelor's, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Executive Director of the TTHTI, Dr. Patricia Butcher, urged the graduates to continue striving for excellence and to give excellent service in whatever they did.
Deliver service that exceeds expectations. You know what you like when you go out there to receive service. So just do unto others as you would have done unto you. And then we will get excellent service in the workplace.
So the next time you receive excellent customer service, keep in mind that it just might be from a former TTHTI student. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Tobago contractors are now more aware of the necessary steps to be taken when trying to access government contracts. This was made possible by the Ministry of Tobago Development's newest Investment, Diversification and Economic Development Unit, who hosted a symposium on tendering procedures for small contractors and business owners at the conference room in Ravenel's Resort, Tobago. Patricia Nicholson has more in this report.
A number of contractors and business owners turned out to the symposium for clarity on the procedures for gaining government contracts. Coordinator of the Investment, Diversification and Economic Development Unit, Mrs. Laureen Boris Phillip, said the unit was advised by the Tobago Development Minister, Dr. Delman Baker, of the importance of such a forum and what it would do for Tobago contractors.
It is supposed to give you the information that will allow you to compete effectively within the country for contracts, because sometimes in Tobago we may not have the information, we don't understand the processes that would allow us to compete evenly with other people for contracts, and so sometimes Tobago contractors lose out.
Program Manager NIPDEC Patrick Caesar, who has a wealth of knowledge in the field of engineering and project managing, informed those gathered in detail about the tendering process. He said Trinidad contractors often win most of the government contracts, but he believes Tobago contractors are competent enough to compete on the same level as their Trinidad counterparts for government contracts. Both NIPDEC and the Central Tenders Board manage most government projects. He said they are responsible for hiring contractors to do the necessary work on a given project. When tenders are sent out for contractors, certain requirements must be met in order for a contractor to firstly qualify for the contract.
For both NIPDEC and the CTB, the Central Tenders Board, these are the very basic requirements. Let me tell you something. If you are a contractor looking to work on government projects, make sure you have these. You have to have your BIR income tax certificate. You have to have your VAT if you are VAT registered. And you have to have your NIS certificate.
The documents are mandatory for contractors whose aim is to work on a government project, but the process does not stop there. NIPDEC specifically has some other rules, regulations and requirements that must be followed in order to be a registered contractor with their company for the 4 types of contractors, which includes petty, small, medium and large contractors. Detailed requirements for contractors in the 4 categories were explored, as well as the qualification process. Contractors at the seminar were also given the opportunity to voice some concerns they have with the general tendering process.
One of the problems that Tobago contractors face, like you say, it had a tendering process in Tobago yesterday. Well, yes. I didn't even hear anything about it.
Oh, okay.
You know, don't mind if didn't want to tender.
Yes.
You know, we should get the information, because one of the problems that we have in Tobago is that Tobago contractors don't get the information.
The truth is that you may do all of that, but yet there is an overriding factor of who you know and who know you. That determines whether you get the contract. And we have gone through a lot of that. And I think that somehow the playing field needs to be level.
NIPDEC's program manager urged Tobago contractors to get their documents regularized so that they will be able to compete amongst some of the top contractors in the country. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. Opinions continue to pour in following the disastrous performance by the West Indies versus India in the recent concluded 2-match test series. 2 prominent former West Indies captains are the latest to chime in as we prepare to go into the one-day international series, which begins on November 21st. Wayne Cunningham has more.
Brian Lara and Clive Lloyd are the latest experts to render opinions on the West Indies' performance during the recently concluded 2-match away series versus India. Before going to India, the regional side had won 6 tests against opponents ranked below them in the ICC test rankings. Then came the debacles of both in Calcutta and Mumbai, where Darren Sammy and his men lost inside 3 days, suffering humiliating innings defeats. Former captain Brian Lara has questioned the selectors' decision to omit Dwayne Bravo and Sunil Narine from the test leg of the tour. According to Lara, Bravo has equal, if not stronger, credential as an all-rounder than West Indies captain Darren Sammy, who has made only 25 runs in the series and went wicketless. Writing in his column for the Times of India, Lara made it clear that he had nothing against Sammy's position and even had sympathy for the St. Lucian, who he felt was unfairly dropped as one-day international captain earlier this year. According to Lara, the selectors had benched the wrong people, and the consequences had badly hurt the team. The world record holder stated, Dwayne hasn't played test cricket for about 3 years now, and knowing him closely, it pains him that the selectors seem to only require him for the shorter versions of the game. A more baffling omission is Sonny Lorraine, the most successful bowler in West Indies regional 4-day cricket. Lara said you would think that he knows Indian pitches like the back of his hand. Another one of the world's best cricketers, labelled by our selectors as not good enough. Clive Lloyd put somewhat of a different spin on the West Indies failure. This former captain has attributed the performance to a diet of too much 2020 cricket. According to Lloyd, the balance of the squad, a weak bowling attack, and the inability of batsmen to adapt from the shorter formats to tests were the areas West Indies need to improve on. It has been a deeply disappointing tour. The team needs to have a hard look at itself, and they have a lot of work to do, he said. During their 4 innings, not once did West Indies play 100 overs. The closest was the 78.2 overs in the first innings at Eden Gardens. Only 2 batsmen managed to score 50s. Throughout the series, Chris Gale, Kyron Powell, Darren Bravo, Marlon Samuels and Sammy all went for attacking shots before settling in. As much as he blamed the batsmen, Lloyd also pointed to the lack of good fast bowlers as another big reason West Indies failed to rally back. In the first test, when we had them at 120 odd for 5, we rarely missed quality bowlers. We were short on penetrative bowling. I believe that any side you choose, be it one-day international or test, it needs to have balance. Sadly, there is no visible balance in this side, Lloyd said. And that is where Lloyd felt the West Indies selectors has the onerous task of figuring out what to do with Sammy, a sentiment which is most probably shared by Lara. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sport.
Thank you very much, Wayne. We'll come right back after this. All local Muslim brothers and sisters have returned from their pilgrimage to Mecca, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. The trip is a requirement for every Muslim at least once in his or her lifetime, at least if they are able to do so.
The Hajj, or Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca, occurs from the 12th and the last month of the Islamic calendar. Because the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar, 11 days shorter than the Gregorian calendar used in the Western world, the Gregorian date of the Hajj changes from year to year. This year it fell in October, and as required, being one of the 5 pillars of Islam, local Trinbagonian Muslims made their trip to see the Kaaba, an ancient house, a cuboid building in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the most sacred site in Islam. Those who made the sacred trip this year on Sunday shared their experiences at a special gathering at the Islamic Community Services in Longdenville.
It was my 3rd journey to that blessed land. And if I should say, the first one was good, the second one was better, and the third one was best, inshallah. Saying that, things that we experienced on the first Hajj and the second Hajj was totally different. You gain more experience from one time to the next to the other.
First time I experienced to the Hajj group, I went to Mecca, Medina. First experience, it was so very nice. I enjoy myself with everything, and everything was so easy for me. Alhamdulillah. Well, everything was easy. I went up the mountains.
I am still in awe of having gone and made the Hajj and returned. Very often I feel I am still there. I have not come out of that Hajj mode as yet. Most important thing was sighting the Kaaba. When I saw the Kaaba, somehow or the other, I was in awe, I was overwhelmed, but it was a sight. I have been seeing the Kaaba since I was a child. Everybody has been seeing the Kaaba in pictures. But, so when you see it, you recognize it, but the point is that you are so overwhelmed by the presence, by being there, and having, seeing everybody going around and making the circuit. So, like everybody else, I was brought to tears.
The Hajj is the largest gathering of Muslim people in the world every year. The trip itself also signifies a major change in the life of a Muslim believer, as is explained by Dr. Muhammad Sharif Musa.
So now you are starting a new page in your life, and it was said that if you want to know that your Hajj was accepted, your last days will be very pious and righteous. In other words, you are not going to go back to the bad things you used to do before. You will become a better person. In fact, you become a new brand person. You are not the same person before. After the Hajj, you are totally different. You are a man of God, and you are heading to your hereafter.
Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you so much for joining us.